beneficial to not only ourselves, but also our community and the world, because now we know the world is a global village. We have a pandemic that is affecting all of us and changing our lives. One of those things that we also tend to overlook is mental health. So we will be putting the spotlight on mental health. And so we'll be talking about mental health, the stigma, the religious and cultural beliefs, anxiety associated with mental health, and the daily pandemic. And we'll talk about the resources of mental health. To discuss all this, fellow Liberians, I have for you one of our own. She is a sister. She is a professional. And I'm talking about mental health professional. She is no one else other than Mistress Young. Mistress Young, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sia. Thanks for having me. I am delighted to be here on Focus on Liberia, talking about such a pertinent and important topic to our community. I am Tanya Young. I am a mental health professional. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor. I have been in the field of mental health for 20 years. So it's on this platform and expertise I have to be able to contribute to this narrative of mental health, its stigma in our community, and also how it plays in our ongoing and quickly evolving pandemic, COVID-19. Yes, I hold a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from St. Augustine's University, formerly St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina. I hold a Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology from Towson University in Towson, Maryland, with a focus in community mental health. Years of experience in correctional settings, community mental health, private practice now, and also nonprofits, school settings. So a wealth and a myriad of education as far when it comes to mental health experience. I recently formed my private practice, Peace Be Still, to offer mental health services to people who are marginalized and underserved, such as our communities and other people.
Thank you. That is the introduction of our guests on this very important topic. Those of you who have just joined us again, we can't ask you enough to hit that share button and share the show so that all of us can learn from what our sister, our guest, has to share. She is one of our own. She has a profession which is in mental health, and she wants to share with us what is mental health, what are the stigma, the anxiety, what are the resources, and this is what we reach out to her, and she gladly accepted our invitation. And so you can play your part by being part of the conversation. Later during the show, we will open our phone line so that you can call and ask your question. Like you, anytime I hear about mental health as a Liberian, I'm like, oh, is somebody trying to tell me I'm crazy? That is not it. This is something that affects all of us. Until we talk about the elephant in the room, we will not know the impact this condition is having on ourselves, the decisions we make, how we relate to our loved ones. So please let us have this conversation. Just give it an open mind and let us go into the conversation. So quickly, Mrs. Young, what is mental health? We all kept hearing about this mental health. What is mental health?
Okay, so mental health is basically your state of mental well-being, okay? People falsely interchange mental health with mental illness. It's not so. Okay? Mental health is the state of your emotional well-being. So we all have mental health, like how we all have physical health, right? So it's the state of our emotional well-being. Mental health exists on a continuum, okay? And that continuum may from low, minimal, mild to severe and persistent. So you're thinking on from one extreme to the next. So we all have mental health. That's something we all possess. How it is influenced is what we'll talk about, on our show. Your mental health may be influenced by a couple of factors, all right? Your mental health may be influenced by health constraints. It may be influenced by a chemical imbalance. It may be influenced by the environment. So there's many things that can impact our mental health. When when you start to teeter into the whole conversation about mental illness and thinking about our community, when we talk about mental illness in the Liberian community specifically is usually seen in its extreme forms.
Okay.
So we're thinking about people who are outwardly showing symptoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about my generation and the times in which I resided in Liberia, we had people like we had a lady we used to call Crazy Susanna, and thinking now in my professional life, more than likely that lady was suffering from schizophrenia, where you see the person is actively responding to some type of stimulus, right? They're talking to themselves, they're seeing things, they're hallucinating, they're responding to things that you and I may not see. Okay, and it's outward. So we say, oh, that person is crazy. Right. So we are looking at more of the severe and persistent mental illnesses like your psychotic disorders, things like schizophrenia and things like that.
Right.
However, mental illness, you do have some mental illness that are severe that I may dress up that you can't see. Understand?
Okay. Right.
So things like what we're going to talk about, Mr. Sia, like you brought up things like anxiety.
Okay. But before we get to the anxiety aspect, let us know, why is this important? You know, why do we have to talk about mental health now? Should we? And why?
It's very important to always have the conversation about mental health. Unfortunately, it's not always a popular conversation.
I know that.
Okay? People easily will talk about being physically sick. You know, people easily have conversations about, oh, I have cancer, or I have, you know, lupus and things like that. And you have support groups and you have people who, you know, culturally, it seems like we are quick to accept physical illness, but not so much mental illness. And I don't think it's so much of a resistance as it is a lack of education and knowledge about it. We tend not to show much empathy about things that we don't understand. Right? Or things that we're not familiar with. It's a different territory for us. So it is important, especially at this time, to talk about mental health, because as a nation, as a globally, we're going through something that has not been experienced before. And it brings about a lot of uncertainty. It brings a lot of impact on our mental health. For even if you felt that your mental health was in a good place, we can all have a conversation how this has impacted you. Okay, whether it's concern about financially moving forward, whether it's concern about your physical health and well-being, whether it's your concern about the aftermath, whatever it is, this pandemic has really gotten us to the place on reevaluating in some cases, and in some cases for the first time, examining our mental health. You know, this whole talk about social isolation, you have to stay in home for some folks, some of us who are direct care, human service professionals, we have to see our clients face to face. How does that impact you walking in and having to see someone knowing what's going on in the world? We'll talk about that a lot more when it comes to populations like our own, Liberians who have gone through things such as war, and how that has already had an impact on our mental health. So we talk about historical trauma, okay? So these are layers that you're adding on. So we already have unresolved historical trauma from war, from being displaced, from sometimes having a grave lack of our basic needs being deprived. And then you come to a situation such as Ebola, which was not long ago. Us and our other brother and sister nations in the Mana River, Union, Sierra Leone, Guinea, we went through firsthand, okay, and experienced that. So that's another layer of psychological trauma. And then here we are today in 2020, talking about yet another traumatic layer. So for most of us in these cases, it's a feeling of being re-traumatized, going through trauma again. So wouldn't it be surprising that certain tactics kick back into full force? You know, people are making jokes like, oh, people going, oh, buying rice, there's no rice, there's no water. Think about past coping skills.
So quickly, tell me, you were talking about layers, you know, from the war, and then there's Ebola, and there's the epidemic, personal things in our life. And so give me a picture of how this whole mental health crisis, if you like, or condition? How does it get to that point where, you're like, okay, this might be a mental health condition that this person is experiencing? What are some things that, pile up, and then you get to that point?
Okay. So like you're saying, Mr. Sia,
Mm-hmm.
so we're talking right now, the anxiety that any of us feels is normal because
Right.
you go into in a situation where the conditions are unknown,
Right.
definitely you'll feel a sense of anxiety. If you don't, then we have to have a talk, right? So
Right.
you definitely have that sense of generalized anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes this different and what makes it from going to your from your mild
Mm-hmm.
and minimal spectrum going all the way to extreme is how does it impact your quality of life? How does it impact your ability to function daily? Your level, we call this your level of functioning. How is
Right.
that impacted? And this is where resilience comes into play. Some people may be going through anxiety and they're able to get dressed every day and walk
Mm-hmm.
out that door and go to work. For others, the anxiety is so crippling and it's so severe that they cannot get out of their house. That's how paranoid and fearful they are. They're fearful of being contaminated by anything or anybody. The unknowns are too much and too real that it cripples their daily functioning. So when something graduates from a mental health, from your just your mental well-being
Right.
into the area of a mental illness, is how strongly does it impact your activities of daily living, your ability to be able to function.
And Tanya, this comes to mind. I watched a documentary about this lady.
Yeah.
Looks normal, acts normal, but all her garbage, she continued to pile the garbage in her house and not throwing away until at some point there was no room left in her entire apartment, got saturated with garbage. And she would come outside and greet her friends. So what is going on in her mind? How did she get to the point that it is okay to keep all the garbage in her apartment and
Yeah.
not even thinking about throwing that away? What is going on there?
Yeah. So what you're describing is something called hoarding.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a wife or a sister on a
Mm-hmm.
mild form, you
Right.
understand women and clothes and shoes and stuff, right?
Right.
And you feel like they're just gathering these things and gathering these things and they don't need it. And that's
Right.
just me making gist of the situation. But when it comes to the extreme, like what you're describing, you
Right.
have to think about what does that represent? Is it her not letting go of things in her life? Does it come from a place of lack where she may, and this is because we don't know her background, we don't
Right.
know what her trauma history or anything is, but
Mm-hmm.
just taking it from this side of the table, looking right,
Right.
thinking about it through a psychological lens, is thinking about what may she have lacked her basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, was she not able to have things, and so therefore she has a problem with letting things go? Or does she have the need to fill in a void, and therefore you collect and collect and collect and don't let go? So those are all the underlying premises of hoarding behaviors, where you find some things. I know there are talk about like when a lot of our kids came here from the refugee camps and stuff and were being resettled. And
Exactly.
there were cases like in the school that when the kids go through the cafeteria, they're taking their bread, they're taking their fruit, they're
Mm-hmm.
holding a blah, 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 they're packing their backpack and stuff. And what's going on? There's so much food here. And why are they doing that? Okay. Instead of casting judgment, think
Mm-hmm.
about that person's own trauma background. If I'm coming from a place where the food was not readily available, okay, or the cutoff time or the rations and things were rationed out to me,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I go somewhere and I see there's lots of it, I'm thinking about tomorrow in
Right.
case another ration drop is not made, or if they don't come back here for another 2 days. In
Right.
my mind, I'm feeling that I have enough to keep me, to keep this going. So sometimes it's also looking at that person's history and helping them to work through it. Like what you explained with that lady is very severe.
Very
So she
serious.
would have benefited from some type of help, some type of therapeutic help or counseling to
Mm-hmm.
try to to unearth whatever was going through with her, for her to be able to live a more productive life and not just present a certain way outside and come behind the doors, living amidst filth and garbage and whatnot.
Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. It is a Friday spotlight, and we are spotlighting one of our own. She is Tanya Young. She's a mental health professional. We are talking about mental health. She's answering the question, what is mental health? How does it come about? What is stigma associated with mental health? These things, those of us from Liberia, Africa, we don't want to listen to those things because our understanding of those things are completely different. But we want to talk about the elephant in the room. As a professional, she's going to provide some explanation for us to understand. So let's come to how can people help? What can they do to minimize the stigma associated with the whole mental health issue?
I think just by normalizing those experiences. So when someone comes and talk to you about, not feeling like themselves or being in a position where they feel like they can't do for themselves,
Right.
feel like their mental health has gotten to the point on which is detriment to their everyday living, and they
Right.
come and share that with you, and you may not be in a position where you'd be like, oh, I don't know what to do. But being in this, in one of the benefits, I guess, for us being here in the States is that there's a wealth of information. But there's a wealth of information, but the information sometimes is not just out there.
Right.
Okay. It's for someone to bring it to your awareness, or you to talk about it and find something and link yourself up with someone who's qualified. And that's another thing, someone who's qualified to be able to point you out to the right resource, like with anything that you're navigating, right?
Right.
So as far as normalizing it in our community is one point. And then another point is not trying to, and this is the thing, I think we try to, as friends or as community members, we try to either one, solve the problem, okay? Or tell the person, don't worry about that thing, man, just leave it with God, just pray about it. In fact, sir, we'll get into that later. Pastors, y'all don't hate me, please. We'll get into that later.
Is that why you're describing as normalizing? I mean, I want you to put more explanation on normalizing. What is normalizing? Yeah.
When I say normalizing, is if someone comes to you and tell you that, I'm so anxious today, I'm not able to get out of bed. Instead of telling them, say, Mom, please get from inside that bed there. They're trying to waiting to eat. What's wrong with you get? You better get up and do what you need to do. Instead of doing that, listen to what the person is saying. Okay. Hear what they're saying, hear their perspective, and then let them know, okay, how long has this been going on? Try to get some type of understanding. Ma, how long this is going on?
Right.
Oh, you said this thing's been going on for 1 month. It don't sound right. Oh, okay, let's see what we can do. Then maybe, call call a mental, if you don't know a mental health professional,
Right.
you think you want us to reach out to the doctor? Oh, you want to talk to the doctor? Okay, let's see what we can do. And a great, like I said, a great source about this with us, and we can get into that once you want to talk about resources. I know that would be towards the end.
Yeah, we'll get to resources later. But I also want to ask this question. Let's come to the cultural and religious beliefs. There are these beliefs that we had with us that we've been holding, and how the cultural and the religious belief, kind of help to perpetuate the denial about this condition called mental health.
So for us, and like I said in the beginning of the program, for a lot of things that we don't understand or don't have knowledge of, we tend to pathologize it. And we may pathologize it spiritually, in which we say this must be some type of imbalance going on, right? Maybe a parent sacrificed you. Maybe it's a demonic attack.
Right.
Maybe they stood in the gap for someone who was being exercised or whatever, So culturally, we hold certain things like, if this is not normal, then therefore it's a curse.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been cursed. Either it's some generational curse that you are now experiencing.
Right.
Okay. So thinking about it through that lens, of course, what happens? You become shunned from society.
Right.
Okay, instead of getting the help that you need, you become shunned. And I can even think back in my childhood and stuff coming up, because I do a lot of reflection
Okay.
and reflecting on, like, I don't remember, like, here how in the States they have, I don't remember going to school with people who are mentally ill. I don't remember living in communities with people who are mentally ill. It'll be like when you go Broad Street or you go down Waterside, the big shopping places where it's like you see the people roaming the streets.
Mm-hmm.
So then in your mind makes you think, but then did mental illness exist in our society or not? And we know it did. Okay, we
Yeah.
know it did, but what was the response to that? You know, so just like I say, sometimes the cultural beliefs and the religious beliefs of these demonic attacks or things not being normal, whatever normal is, because normal is definitely a relative term. You know, things not being normal and things that I think that sets as a barrier to people seeking help. Because why would I want to, even if I'm experiencing this,
Right.
and I see someone else right next to me come to go ask for help, and they're telling them, say, oh, because that your grandma went and she was a witch, or she sacrificed this person, that's why you're experiencing it. Even
Mm-hmm.
if that's my experience, I'm not going to be apt
Right.
to want to come and disclose what I'm experiencing. And
Mm-hmm.
you sit there and you suffer in silence. Or then
And
again,
and I just wanted to ask you, I know a sister,
mhm,
whenever the July 26th is coming around, she can be like, I don't want to hear those firecrackers going.
mhm.
And though she aware that people going to fire that thing, but once she hears the first one, she can't just hold her peace. And it's because of her experience during the war.
Mhm.
Though she had knowledge about what's happening, but she still gets in that panic and confused state. What is happening?
The body, and there's something I said, the body, trauma lives in the body.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not only a mental thing, it can become a physical thing.
Okay.
When your mental health can also be, you can experience it physically. So
Right.
what you're experiencing, what you're reporting, I know a lot of us from trauma backgrounds and stuff, when there's firecrackers and all these tribulation things that sound like guns going off and stuff, you get
Right.
that, immediate trauma response.
Right.
Regardless, like you say, every July is the same thing that goes on, because this is how the people celebrate their Independence Day here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that does not, your body doesn't know that. Your body is holding on to that trauma from before, running from bullets and dodging and hiding and stuff. That body is holding on to that trauma. And if
Right.
it has not been processed yet, she will be holding on to it for a long time.
So once she hears that sound, I mean, it triggers that experience.
Mhm.
So how you as a professional, how do you help somebody like this to be able to overcome this?
So those will be things someone will come and see,
Mhm.
see you in counseling or therapy for, right? To
Okay.
discuss what their actual experience were. So
Mhm.
then she'll be able to sit and talk with me and talk about her wartime experiences, her experience with either
Mhm.
fleeing from gunfire, witnessing gunfire, or maybe being a victim or knowing someone who was shot. And what does that mean to her? So processing through that trauma and
Mhm.
then moving on to the next step of, okay, so now we know this happened. You talk about it. This is how you dealt with it. Now let's talk about, we do something in therapy, it's called fact checking.
Right.
So you letting her know what's the likelihood that they're shooting at you right now. So
Right.
putting the facts with the actual environment.
Mhm.
What's the likelihood that you can be running and dodging bullets right now? So
Mhm.
doing those things, exposing that person. So you're talking about the historical, working through it, and it'll not be a 1 day thing or 2 day thing. This can happen over a series. It just depends how long that person takes to process and work through their traumas, and how much they're willing to do that.
All right. Again, folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. We are having a Friday spotlight exclusive on one of our home, who is a mental health professional. You see her name right there. She's Tanya Young. Um, She is in this profession of providing services that can help people with mental health condition. I know the denial is real, especially in our community. As African as a whole, we deny these things. We don't want to talk about these things because our understanding of this thing is that once we talk about mental health, we say the person is crazy. But guess what? There are a lot of crazy people walking in clean clothes. I don't mean to offend somebody. It's about bringing the reality to ourselves so that we can be able to, because hey, we made decisions that can be impacted, by our mindset. Our mindset is not right because our experiences, and these things need to be corrected so that we can be our best selves and make best decisions that will benefit us. Hey, what do I know? The professional is here. What I do is ask the question. And so how can people get out of this whole denial stage? That, oh, I'm okay, nothing's happening to me. Even though the person went through successive abuse, but some of the people that get abused over and over and over and over, and by the time they get out of it, that abuse, they try to accept it as something normal. So when you try to tell them that, no, this is not normal, this is the normal life, they are in that denial. How do you help someone get out of that denial stage?
So denial is a tough one to deal with, right? Because
Right.
the first instance of getting help is admittance. So when you talk about denial, it's a whole different ball game. There's just so much you can
Right.
do. You can go ahead and let the person know how this is impacting you. Okay. I know you may not see it this way, but look, it's impacting your ability to hold a job. It's impacting your ability to function within your family setting. Okay.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's, and you can say holding an intervention. Okay. So sometimes you hold an intervention with that person and say, this is what's going on with you, and this is the impact it has. For some people, excuse me, that's the wake up call they need,
Mhm.
seeing the impact, like maybe hearing from your family member, hearing from a
Mhm.
loved one, hearing it from an employer. Because sometimes they maybe say, oh, the people just don't like me, don't put in that mess up people in their job, man. What they know, they don't know nothing. But if you go
Right.
through 1, 2, 3 job and you can't hold a job, then not just the people, then something going on with you, you
Yeah.
know? So
Mhm.
then if they're saying that, oh, you have you're very easy temporary, easy to lose your cool, you have anger management issues. And like what are
Mhm.
American people talking about anger management issue? They know they call anger management issues, and just you take it personal and you go
Right.
ahead and lose that job. You go to the second job and it becomes an issue that they're defiant to authority. Same thing. So you start to see a pattern develop. Okay.
Right.
And for some people, that's the wake up call. They need to say, okay, maybe the problem is not always on the other foot. Maybe there's something, even if they don't admit it out, but they may be able to admit it to themselves. Then this is something that I need to do. This is something that I need to work on.
All right. So those of you who are following us here at Focus on Liberia, we have shared the number that you can call to ask Tanya a question or any comment you may have. The number is 605-313-6004. And when you dial that number, you need to enter the code 791-403. I have posted the number multiple times. If you look in the live feed there, you see the Focus on Liberia logo. That number is there for you to call, and that code is also there for you to enter so that you can participate in the conversation. Maybe you have a question. We need that question so that we all can benefit from that question you may have. While I wait for your calls, let me ask this question. Let's talk about the anxiety a little more and the anxiety that is associated with mental health and this daily epidemic called COVID-19. So what is anxiety, first of all, when it comes to mental health and COVID-19, and what are the symptoms of anxiety?
Okay, so anxiety basically is a form of excessive and persistent worry and
Okay.
fear. Okay, about everyday situations. Sometimes people have anxiety of leave of being in a group of people. Sometimes people have anxiety over um, like insects.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll have anxiety of heights. So those are just things that kind of has a physical response, right? So maybe if they're going somewhere that's extremely high, they start to sweat, they start to have rapid heartbeat, things of that nature. But then you also have anxiety due to, we talk about trauma history, especially in the Liberian community, right?
Mhm.
You may have anxiety, a lot of anxiety to do with the unknown. Okay. And this is how I'm going to tie it into our conversation with COVID-19. So
Right.
the anxiety of the unknown, I don't know what to expect. Okay. So when
Right.
you think about it, like our trauma history,
Mhm.
and I know I was having a conversation with someone the other day about just think about a war, especially when you think about the 1990 war. All
Mhm.
right. Um, we had lived through a time and period where there were lots of coup d'etats. So this
Right.
was almost like a normal way of being. Like something will happen, it will calm down, and life will go back to normal, right?
Mhm.
But then life did not go back to normal. It became protracted. There was a lot of anxiety that all of us experienced. Some may be more mild than others. Some was very extreme. Okay. And for some of us, I can speak on that. We do suffer from residual anxiety. Anxiety has now become a way of life because of those traumatic past that we experienced. Okay. So now you fast forward to stuff like COVID-19, talk about re-traumatization.
Right.
Okay. Now we get to a situation where you think, oh, this thing was just going to be a 1 week thing. Oh, the thing will come and pass. But now we live in a time where every day the narrative is different. Every day there's becoming more and more constraints on our movement
Mhm.
and our way of life. So even if your anxiety, talking about your mental health, was on the mild scale
Right.
and you didn't even have a diagnosis of anxiety, is getting up there to moderate, right?
Right.
So then think about someone, like I said, like some of us that have issues of anxiety, that always have that level of anxiety that lives within us.
Mhm.
Then now you're going to add something like a COVID-19 on top of it.
Right.
Your anxiety symptoms have now been exacerbated.
Exactly.
Okay. So now where it may be more difficult for you to, like, you may have things like sleep disturbances,
Mhm.
where you sleep intermittently or not sleep at all. It may start to impact your appetite, and that could be appetite on all levels: appetite for food, appetite for sex, appetite for pleasure. Your appetite may become decreased. Okay. And then for
Wow.
some people, appetite can go either which way. You know, some people are overeaters and some people are undereaters when they're stressed, right?
Right. Right.
So some people may start feeling like, wow, in the house whole day, they're cooking, and eating. I can't stop.
Mhm.
Okay. Then you find yourself overeating every time you sit and you watch CNN. You got something in your mouth. You're not just eating because you're hungry. You're eating because you're feeding. That's your coping mechanism. You're feeding away that stress. So everybody at this stage in the country, and I would say globally, you know,
Right.
depending on the number of cases or the amount of information that you're being inundated with,
Right.
experience some type of anxiety. And with
Eh,
that, then I also say, Mr. Sia, then
mhm.
there's way for you to cope with anxiety.
Okay. How do we cope with the anxiety? How do we control the anxieties?
Exactly. So there are some means with anxiety, right?
Mhm.
Especially with this anxiety around this COVID-19.
Mhm.
There's just so much information you're going to get within a 24-hour period,
And that's what's happening right now.
right? There's
Mhm.
just so much information you're going to get within a 24-hour period. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you do not need to be on every platform reading every article. Because what happens is that just spikes your anxiety up more and more, right? So sometimes you
Wow.
have to go ahead and create limits for yourself. If you figure out, I have to work, you know, just before I met with you, I just got off work, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I have to function. I can sit there and the people job all day and just be scrolling my phone, looking at CNN. When I move on there, then I go to Fox News, then I move on there, I go to the other place, then I on Facebook. No, 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 no. You can't do that because
And,
what's going to
and
happen is going to be so
not
unproductive.
not interrupting you, Tanya. That's what I have been doing because in the news business, I'm like, I need to know what is going on. And, I'm counting the numbers, and then I'm thinking about my investment. It's just disappearing gradually. I'm like, this thing is serious. I mean, when will we come to an end?
Exactly.
So to control it, let me just leave it a little bit and just hope that it will be well.
Exactly. You have to just set parameters around things, you know, because
Okay.
and there's so much you can control and there's so much you can't control. So instead of focusing on the things that you can't control, focus on what you can control. I can
Mhm.
control my mindsets. I can't
But
control COVID-19, but I can
no.
control my mindset and I can
Mhm.
control my response to it. And my response and my mindset is more needed at this time. If
Mhm.
I was to contract in anything or to become exposed to anything, or God forbid, my family members or any of my loved ones around me, I need to have a stable mental state to be able to function. So sometimes we have to create parameters around things, because what's the difference if I look at the news at 12 o'clock versus 5? You said, you get what you're talking about. There's a lot of difference that can happen in 5 hours, yes. But
Right.
staying on it every hour on the hour, what is that doing to me? What is that
Hmm.
doing for me? So if you feel that it's exacerbating your anxiety and your level of functioning,
Right.
you may need to go ahead and create, parameters around that. Like
Oh,
sometimes even a lot of these apps have timers.
okay.
Like I say, you're not spending your 1 hour on Facebook for the day.
Right.
You have to sign off. You
Right.
know, you don't have to, but if you want to discipline yourself, you can do that.
Right.
Just measures, and those are just things I'm throwing out there. That doesn't mean it's decreed anywhere, but just things for you to do to try and help yourself and create some type of boundaries around it. And
Thank
then,
you.
mhm.
Thank you again, folks in cyberspace. I am enjoying the conversation. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm just sharing the show. I'm sharing the show because I don't want to be the one explaining all this good information to somebody. Share with your friends so that you don't have to do the talking. This is juicy. I didn't think it was going to be juicier like this, but again, when you have a professional on the issue, you get nothing but the best. Again, you are watching Focus on Liberia. My name is Anson Sia, hosting and is Fratly Spotlight exclusive with one of our own, Tanya Young, who is a mental health professional. We are discussing mental health issues, and we also chipping in with the anxiety associated with COVID-19. And so my next question is, how are the anxiety associated with mental health different from those associated with COVID-19? I mean, are they different at all, or seeing anxiety?
There isn't a difference, actually, Mr. Sia. There isn't
Okay.
a different. Anxiety is anxiety, but
Okay.
anxiety, let's just talk about it, falls into different sects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So what I was just explaining was generalized anxiety.
Okay.
Okay. But then you also have social anxiety, where people
Okay.
get and for this I laugh when I say
Yeah.
social anxiety.
Yeah.
Sometimes people feel very uncomfortable and extreme excessive fear and worry in
Right.
social settings.
Hmm.
So people who suffer from social anxiety, now their social isolation is like heaven because I don't have to go out.
Right.
Okay. So while all of us who are the extroverts and enjoy being in social settings, enjoy
Hmm.
being, socially interactive, it's like,
Right.
oh, this is going to be a little bit difficult. For people who suffer from social anxiety, hey, this is what we do, you
Right.
know, a lot of isolation. So, but however, there's a difference between being made to socially isolate and
Hmm.
having to isolate because you're anxious and you're fearful of people.
Wow. All right, folks in cyberspace, we have again posted the number. Don't be shy. I can't be the one asking all the questions. I don't have all the questions. You have the best questions for our sister to be able to answer. So the number is 605-313-6004. Don't forget to enter the code 791-403. And that number is right there. I share it multiple times. Look at the Focus on Liberia logo and place that phone call. I'm here. I will take that call, and then you can ask your question. Let's come to resources. So now we know about mental health, how is that, the anxiety, the trauma that try to fuel it, past experiences that also help to fuel it, how we can do some control mechanism, to minimize the impact it may have on the decisions that we make. Let's come to the resources. What are the resources that are available for people who need to actually see some help from professionals like you who are in this business?
Okay. So I'm just going to talk about some national resources, okay? Because I
Okay,
know this live video is not just Minnesota specific, although we are in Minnesota,
exactly.
but this is for just thinking about throughout.
Mm-hmm.
We have here the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Okay, they're a great resource.
Mm-hmm.
It's www.nami.org. NAMI is a great resource. You also have the National Institute of Mental Health. They are another great resource as far as mental resources.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go ahead and give you some information for crisis.
Okay.
Okay, because with mental health, we do experience some mental crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So things where someone may be of a danger to themselves or others, okay? Where
Mm-hmm.
people may be experiencing suicidal ideations, thoughts of harming themselves with means or without means, okay? If somebody expresses to you that they want to hurt themselves and they have the means to,
Mm-hmm.
um, no need to go on website or something, call 911. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if someone is threatening to be homicidal to hurt somebody else,
Right.
if you have the means, you go ahead and call 911. If you're so stricken by fear or grief, or you're so excitable in the moment and you don't know what to do, you call
Right.
911. However, there is a national suicide prevention line within our community, and I know it's been in a lot of the African communities here in our Midwest, in Minnesota to be specific. There has been a spike and an increase in suicide, especially among our younger people. So when people are talking about their life not feeling worth living,
Mm-hmm.
making end of life plans, seeming to be a stark contrast from their actual presentation. Because sometimes most people who are suicidal will not verbally say that I want to take my life. You might see them start to socially withdraw. You might see them try to start to isolate. You may see a stark change in their personality. With that
Right.
being said, there's a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I'm going to read out the number. So if you see my eyes shift, that's what I'm doing because I'm trying to be accurate. The
Okay.
number is 1-800-273-TALK. And that is 1-800-273-TALK. That is 1-800-273-8255. It's both accessible in English and in Spanish. We are the world on texting, right? So a
Right.
lot of people prefer to text. We don't do a lot of talking. If that's the case, there's also a crisis text line.
Okay.
So you don't have to pick up the phone and call somebody. If you don't want to, you can text and they will have professionals to text you back. The crisis text line is 741-741, and you text hello, HELLO. So
Right.
text hello to 741-741. And that's all within the US. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These
Wait.
crisis hotline, they do not turn off. Okay.
All
We
right.
also have number for disaster distress.
Okay.
So this hotline right now for COVID-19, you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine the hang time.
Right.
Okay. And that number is 1-800-985-5990. 1-800-985-5990. Or also, if you want to text them at 66746 and put in there, talk
Mm-hmm.
with us. So there are so many resources,
All right.
out there for different
All right.
crisis type situations.
Thank you.
You're
Our
welcome.
guest, Tanya, right there, sharing some resources that we all can take advantage of. I hope you were taking note. Our callers are afraid. Maybe they think I'm doing a good job. I'm not sure of that. But they have been participating very well on Facebook by writing. So let's read some comments for you.
Okay.
So we have here Queen Emily Go Angel. I am watching from New Jersey. She writes, and Pale Orita Reto, how does it impact your environment? Keep those questions as I read the comments so you can answer them. She asking, how does that impact your environment? I guess she's talking about mental health. Musu writes, very relevant topic. Thanks for this. Pale, again, maybe she never had it in her childhood. Cognitive therapy will be good for such a lady. I think she's talking when I
About
give
the
the example
garbage.
about that lady there.
Mhm.
Musu again, sometimes it does not come from a place of lack, but the desire to hold on another and let go. All
Exactly.
right. Those are few comments. Let me continue here. They often time this they oftentimes are dismissive. Okay, yep. And then the other person, right? That is Tokpa, great point. Steve Bole, he said great point. Steve Bole is a psychologist. He's a clinician. She's following us yet. That's a privilege for us yet to say great point. I don't know what I'm doing here. Musu, again, you are right. Denial is self-inflicted and often difficult to help. They refuse to admit what is obvious. All right. Then we have Kamara G and focus on Liberia. Can your guest please tell us the difference between mental health and depression? Keep that one for you to answer. Uh, then we have our sister here, Eva. She said, I have taken a break from watching the news. It gives me major anxiety. I think I need to take that advice and stop and not just happy I'm in news business, so I have to watch the news. Then the other person, this person is Wadi. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. She said, that person said, how is COVID-19 contributing to social anxiety? All right. So these are a few comments, and I hope you got those questions. Answer those questions quickly, and then I can come back to you.
Okay. So one of the
Mhm.
questions that popped out was about the gentleman, I believe, asks, what is the difference between mental
Mhm.
health and depression? Okay. So depression actually falls
Right.
under mental
Mhm.
health. Okay. So depression falls under mental illness because you remember, like I said before, mental health is something we all have. We all have our emotional well-being, right? But
Right.
depression, if you're diagnosed with clinical depression, these are things when someone has a depressed mood or loss of interest in activity and is causing some type of significant impact on their life. We all can be depressed. This situation can be depressing. Okay. Does that mean we're
Mhm.
all clinically diagnosed with depression? No.
Right.
Sometimes it depends how, like I said, with everything, how it impacts your daily
Mhm.
life, how it
Right.
impacts your level of functioning. You have some people who are clinically depressed, and these people have difficulties getting up to even engage in their activities of daily living, where you find people who stay in the room for days, people
Right.
who may have not showered for months. They do not have a desire. They're that down and low within their mood where they don't have the desire to partake in life. That's not a motivating factor inside or outside. So there's nothing intrinsic or extrinsic that
Right.
can motivate them. A lot of these things we're talking now, when we're talking about depression, you're also teetering on the whole thing about chemical imbalance. So for things like depression, clinical depression, severe anxiety, all that stuff, if it's diagnosed as a chemical imbalance, there are medications. Okay. And I know
Mhm.
these are things when we start to talk about medications and stuff, people start to get, especially in our community, it become a little bit leery, like, ma, why won't you talking over there? Why
Mhm.
taking medicine for? What's wrong with me? I don't need, and having to take medication, antidepressive medication or antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications does not mean that you're going to be on it for your whole life. Sometimes these are things that you need to stabilize yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes people may suffer from depression and don't need medication. Sometimes you just may need talk therapy or
Right.
work through some type of group therapy or whatever the situation is. But there's something why you have to seek a professional, okay, to make that determination. There's nothing that you can make on your own. And I don't want that to be a deterrent because it can be when people
Mhm.
start to hear, oh, God, medication. This is why I don't talk to those people in the first place. This is why I don't
Right.
go to my business, but don't go to your business. They take something wrong with your here now they want to eat medicine, you know.
Right.
So I know that can be a deterrent, but just look at it. If I'm having situation with my cholesterol and
Mhm.
I go to the doctor and they give me medication to balance my cholesterol,
Mhm.
and so I can get myself back to eating healthy in a way which it doesn't impact me and I can get off my cholesterol meds. They same with my antidepressive meds. Okay. There's
Mhm.
certain medications, of course, when we talk about the psychotic disorders, that might be a maintenance drug. That might be just things to help long term. So if you're talking about people who are responding to voices, people who have schizophrenia and stuff, there are
Mhm.
certain antipsychotic meds that has to be maintenance, that it will be taken properly, yes, forever, because guess what? It helps with the voices, it helps with the delusions, it helps with those symptoms. So it's different for everybody. Don't just see somebody's case. And some of those cases that we see are usually the ones that are extreme. And then that scares us, or that puts us in a hole, and then we don't go ahead and seek the help that we need.
All right. Thank you for those very informative answers on those beautiful questions from our viewers. So let's do this. You told us that you are planning opening an office.
We have, Mr. Sia.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations that you have opened an office nearby in our community where
Mm-hmm.
you will be providing some services.
Yes.
So I want you in your closing here, explain to us how can you be reached
Okay.
and the services you provide
Mhm.
so that we all can know where you are and how we can reach you and what we should reach you for.
Alrighty. Okay, so I
Mhm.
have a private practice providing mental health counseling for people who are underserved and marginalized. My focus is Africans in the diaspora. So all my people, y'all can see me.
Oh
Anywho,
yeah.
so I'm in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. I
Mhm,
can go ahead and give the address. I'm in Brooklyn Center.
mhm.
You can reach me on my website. The name of my business, first of all, is Peace Be Still.
Oh,
So that's on the big.
easy to remember. Peace be still.
It's a biblical reference, and I'll
Yeah.
y'all
Mhm.
listen to better in. So it's
Right.
Peace Be Still, and it's in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
Mhm.
You can reach me at info at peace hyphen b hyphen still.com. That's email. You can go on my website www.peace b still.com. All my services are there. I provide individual counseling, group counseling, graduate students. If you're in need of supervision, I provide supervision services. I'm a community advocate and ally. So I work with schools. I work with police departments. Anybody who needs a culturally competent and appropriate professional to work with them, I'm open to doing mental health trainings and professional development. So that's that. That's my contact information. If you want to call me, you can reach me at 763 220 4971. I am Tanya Young.
Mr. Sion, and you were talking about your website. I'm sharing it here on the screen for our viewers to see. So it's easy.
Oh,
All you have
you
to
see
do is,
my brother on the
yeah,
wall.
so you go to www.peace-b-still.com, and yeah, it's a website. You see that Peace Be Still.
Mhm.
So about us, if you click about us here, as you can see, those of you viewing us here, focus on Liberia on Facebook. Yeah, she is. She's beautiful looking. You will get all the information, all the things that she's into. All right, you come to, some of you have to look at payment and rates. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that. Go there and talk to her first.
Yes.
Okay. Insurance information and all that. You want to book an appointment online, you just head here, book online, and
Mhm.
then you will be able to reach out to her. Okay, so she doing a individual therapy, in-person, virtual. So that means you can find a way to reach out to her through the phone and all that. So the
Yes.
information is here. Again, the website is www.peace-b-still.com, and you will be right there. The phone numbers and everything, the address, everything right there on the website. So I will put that website right here, and I know when to call our sister.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so I think we have covered everything. Is there anything that I left out that you want to talk about? If not, I want you to close down and speak to our people, whatever you want to share with them, and then we can close the broadcast.
Okay. So thank you so much for having me, Mr. Sia. It has been a very fast hour, but it has been a very meaningful hour. I thank you so much for taking your time out. All my people out there who are watching, I appreciate the participation. I appreciate the questions and the comments. And I just want to encourage our community. Please reach out if you need the help. I am here. If you're not in my state, if you need resources, you can reach out to me. I am very great at information sharing and giving out resources. These are important community conversations that we need to have to normalize the importance of mental health, of having a stable mental health, of having a greater mental health, about addressing our historical traumas, how to have better coping strategies in moving forward as a great and strong and very resilient community that we have proven ourselves to be. So as usual, I'm so grateful, like I said, to Mr. Sia for this time and this platform to discuss this. I look forward to talking with a lot more of you in community conversations, seeing you in groups, sessions, seeing you individual sessions, just chatting with you. If you have any issues or concerns regarding mental health or mental well-being, reach out to me. Like I said, Tanya Young, Mr. Sia did share with you guys the website and all of that. Reach out to me. Raising my L's, Liberia for life, man.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. And again, we couldn't thank you enough for honoring our invitation and coming here to provide the education that all of us need to be of help to ourselves and our community so that we can live this very short life that we have that can be fulfilling when we take advantage of the necessary information, get the help we need, take advantage of the resources that are at our disposals and use them the way we should for our own benefit, the benefit of our loved ones. We are honored that we had you. You are one of our own. What you're doing is phenomenal. And here I focus on Liberia. This is what we do. We find our own and we promote our own. Our core here, we say we educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. I'm happy I have that phone number. Hey guys, if you can't get to Tanya, you just reach out to us here at Focus on Liberia. I remember that website very well. I will direct you right there, and then your questions will be answered. Again, folks, in cyberspace, we want to say thank you. We appreciate all you do for us by following our broadcast every time we come here live on Facebook. Let me make a couple of announcements. Today at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be having another show. We'll be talking about roles and bridges. How are we designing our roles and how are we constructing our roles? Two of our own. They are engineers. They will be coming here at 7 p.m. Eastern time to talk about roles in Liberia. And then on Saturday, guess what we're talking about? We're talking about electricity and energy. Again, two professional Liberians in the business of electricity will be coming here to explain to us how the thing works. We need to know how it works before we start making all the noise. Oh, the person didn't do it right. We need to get that understanding. And guess what? On Sunday, the presidential press secretary, he's a deputy presidential press secretary, Smith, will be here at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll be asking him all the tough questions. You guys know I love politics business. I will be asking all the tough questions. He didn't answer questions even on COVID-19, the virus. I'm scared for our people. And also on Sunday, we will be having Dr. Joanna Shaw Kaka. She's a medical doctor, and she will be here and we'll be talking about COVID-19. The virus is serious. We need to get all the information we need to protect ourselves so that we and our loved ones can be safe. That is all that we package for you from right here. Focus on Liberia, your own Liberian-owned network. Thank you, Ms. Young. Thank you. Thank everybody. And that's all we have for you. And bye-bye from us.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.